guys, it's Emily, and today I'm here to bring you a recent reads video. I finished 3 books this week, so I figured I'd talk about them so I could get the library books back to where they need to go. So let's just get right into it. The first book that I finished was Relish, My Life in the Kitchen by Lucy Knisley. I picked this up last weekend for the Get Graphic readathon, and I also picked it up because it's been a while since I read a graphic novel, and I felt like reading something sort of light and, easy to get through. So this is a memoir of Lucy Knisley's experiences with food. She was born and raised in New York City, so she talks a lot about New York City food, and particularly her mother worked at a cheese shop, and then she eventually became a chef. So Lucy has a lot of experience with like gourmet food and gourmet cheeses and all that kind of stuff. And then when she was about 9 years old, her parents got divorced, and she and her mother moved up to Rhinebeck, New York, which is a sort of hipster town, and her mother in particular became very involved in the local farmers market scene. So Lucy has a lot of experiences with farmers markets, and then she also talked about some traveling that she did as a child to Mexico and to Europe and things like that. So the art is very pretty. I love Lucy Knisley's art, and she shows the scenes from her life, but then she also shows like recipes. So let me see if I can find you a good recipe. Each chapter has a recipe at the end. So here's like a recipe after the chapter where she goes to Mexico, and then there's also other recipes, and then each chapter has a little picture at the start of the chapter. So yeah, it's just a really beautiful, quick to read, easy to read graphic novel. It does make you very hungry, just so you are aware. But yeah, I would definitely love Lucy Knisley's art. This is her 3rd graphic novel that I've read, and I have all of her books on my TBR to get through, and I've been working through them chronologically. So I really enjoyed this. Definitely recommend if you're looking for an easy to read graphic novel that has some pretty art in it. I then finished my devotional book for the month, and that was The Practice of the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence. Brother Lawrence is a monk that lived in the 1600s, I believe, and he was on kitchen duty for many, many years at the monastery, and so he developed this practice of experiencing the presence of God no matter what you're doing, and basically being in the presence of God no matter what you're doing. And so this is made up of like little writings that he did, and then there's also letters that he wrote, and then at the very end there's a biography that was written by a fellow monk at the monastery after he passed away. And I would describe this book as being deceptively simple, because a lot of what he says seems rather self-evident. He talks about how you should pray a lot and how you should always think of God in your life decisions, and stuff that like you would think would be like obvious and something that you were automatically doing if you were trying to improve your Christian life. But I did think, like, I feel like this is a book that I would reread a lot, because the ideas in it are things that you forget or you become complacent about, or you just don't think about these things in your day-to-day life. I know I have trouble remembering to pray, I've been trying to pray at night before I go to bed, and like most of the time I don't remember, or like I remember and then I get distracted and I start thinking about something else, because I tend to do it like after I'm in bed when the lights are off, and so I'm like, oh, thank you God, blah blah blah, and then I like forget whatever I'm saying. I don't know, but anyway, I found this very useful, and I'm glad I read it. It's been on my TBR for a while, so yeah, I would recommend this if you're interested in reading, more about experiencing God in your day-to-day life. And this is also considered one of like the classic Christian works. Like a lot of people reference this and things. So yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I would highly recommend it if you're interested. I then finished City of Promise by Beverly Swerling. This is the fourth book in her Old New York City trilogy, or quartet, I should say. This is book 4, which is City of Promise. And I got this from Interlibrary Loan, as you can see by the big sticker on it. This follows the next generation of the Turner family that we've been following throughout this series, and this takes place during the Gilded Age after after the Civil War. And New York is outgrowing its island, and so people are moving into Brooklyn and Queens and the outer boroughs. And so this book is talking about the invention and development of the subway system. At this time, it's just the L trains, but there's also discussion of the underground trains that we now know of. And then of course there's also the Brooklyn Bridge is being built, and that's why this is the Brooklyn Bridge on the cover. And so there's a lot of controversy about the Brooklyn Bridge in this book because it is taking so long to build and people have died, and the first guy in charge became deathly ill and had to go to a warm climate to recover. So there's a lot of suspicion about the bridge. So this follows Joshua Turner, and he is in the real estate business, and he is buying up land and building apartment buildings, and so it's about his success, and then he's also being targeted by these men who are trying to steal his fortune and steal the deeds to his property. So we see that conflict. And then he also marries in this book and has a wife named Molly, and it's about their relationship and the troubles they go through. And it's just a really interesting book. I would recommend that you start at book 1, which is City of Dreams, because it does reference things that took place. And of course, because this is the next generation, it references previous generations, including the generation that was in the last book. So this is a really good historical fiction series, and I'm glad I finally finished it. There is a prequel called Shadowbrook that takes place during the French and Indian War, but I don't know if I'm going to read that. I put it on my TBR, but it's not one that I'm particularly interested in, and the reviews on Goodreads are kind of bad, so I don't know. I might get to it someday. We'll see. But I'm glad that I finally finished this quartet, because this book in particular, and all of the books, have been on my TBR since 2015. So, it's been 4 years, and I finally finished it. So I'm really glad that I did. That's all I've been reading lately. I just finished City of Promise this morning, so I have one book in progress, but I've been reading it for over a week now, so I don't know when I'm going to finish it. It's a nonfiction book that's very slow going. I have 7 other books I would like to read in September. I'm pre-filming this, so by the time you see this, I'll probably have finished more, but that'll be in my next recent reads. I hope everybody's having a great day and you're reading some great books, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!